Stories from Real Life is an independent podcast that is written and produced by Melvin E. Edwards. You can get details about each episode or contribute to the future success of this show by visiting the website at www.podcastreallife.com.
On today's edition of Stories from Real Life with Melvin E. Edwards, our guest today is Amita Sharma. Amita is co-founder of the app NourishDoc, a holistic wellness platform focused to empower women through their hormonal transition from PMS, peri to postmenopausal years. She developed that culture-sensitive, affordable, innovative self-care app. On this episode, she will discuss some of the cultural myths and taboos that have silenced menopause stories for generations, and how humor, vulnerability, and community redefine what it means to age with purpose and vitality. Let's join today's guest, Amita Sharma, and your host, Melvin E. Edwards.
You are listening to Stories from Real Life, a podcast by engaging storytellers for engaged story listeners. Here's your host, author and journalist, Melvin E. Edwards.
Hello again, and welcome to this week's episode of Stories from Real Life. I'm your host, Melvin E. Edwards. Thanks for joining me on this week's learning adventure. As you heard in the intro, our guest this week is women's holistic wellness advocate, Amita Sharma. Hello, Amita, and thank you for joining me on the podcast today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Melvin. I really appreciate when guys interview me because, they really care. That's what it means.
Yes, and I was just about to say, I didn't expect to be discussing a topic like this, but while menopause may cause men to pause, it would be in our best interest if we all learn what a woman is experiencing during this change in her life. And what better way to do that than through stories that are educational, enlightening, and maybe even humorous. So my first question for you is, how did you end up in this personalized holistic care space when you started your career as an architect in San Francisco?
It's actually a long story, a great question. I just went along with the course of what life gave me. To be honest with you, I just went along with it. It was hard, challenging for me to change being an architect to being into an engineer, going into the software, the high tech. I truly wanted to be an artist, but I could not make a living like a lot of artists out there. So I just went along, and I ended up, fast forward after doing so many changes and kind of different kind of trial and errors, I should say that. My last life was in corporate high tech, which I truly enjoyed. I must say that, because I was working to create all these amazing websites for consumers and changing, how they behave. And to me, it was very fascinating.
Okay. So, and getting to this topic that we're discussing today, which is generally perimenopause,
yes.
What are the parallels between storytelling and how women reshape their identity during midlife transitions?
So it's I'll tell you what happens in perimenopause. The women's stories are changing, whether they like it or not. And it happened with me. My story changed. I thought I was going to conquer the world and I'm going to become a VP at a Fortune 500 high-tech company. I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool. Guess what happened to me? I entered early 40s. My story started changing because I got into perimenopause and I was a mess. So there are a lot of parallels to a storytelling because from a woman's point of view, her story is going to change no matter whether she likes it or not, because her hormones are going to fluctuate and her body is preparing to enter into menopause in 50s. So perimenopause is definitely a story, change of story, the new stories. Every day is a new story for women. And I think they just need to accept it and share their stories, which is not happening right now.
Okay. So everybody's heard of menopause. At least I think everybody has.
Yes.
But perimenopause seems to be less known, even among some in the medical profession. So what is perimenopause?
Yeah, so medical profession, you're absolutely right. They are not even taught about perimenopause. And for menopause, only 8 hours are allocated for 15 years of study, what they do as medical professionals. So now perimenopause actually can last up to 10 years, and it is a transition towards menopause. So what's happening is a woman's body is trying to prepare her body to reach the menopause stage, which is switching off the menstrual cycle. But the menstrual cycle just doesn't switch off one day. It's not like an on. Well, on is one day probably, but off is not like one day. The whole 10 years, let's say hypothetically, in my case, it kind of went on, I don't know, for many, many years. And it's a slow progression of irregular periods. Initially close together, then further apart until you switch it off. So perimenopause is the transition years for a woman's life before she hits menopause.
Okay, so what are the cultural myths and taboos that have silenced menopause stories for generations?
Yeah, because, women just think it's a loss of their feminism, right? Then, there's an age discrimination. I personally felt that, people might view me as I cannot work properly, and generally menopause is a taboo in society. It's the loss of your reproductive years of life, right? And a lot of women, when they're reaching that stage of life, are also putting on weight, if you notice, and that's because of the hormone fluctuation, which is not very well understood. So, and loss of libido also sometimes happens in a lot of women during that. So all these things, the society might view you as, you're getting old, and women don't like to hear that. These are not honest truths, right? So I think this has just become a taboo everywhere in the world, for that matter. The culturally ethnic, anyway, any ethnic groups that you see. But lately, in the last few years, women of my generation who are all educated are coming out and talking about it, which is so great, right? So if you look 2 decades back, nobody was talking about it. Even Meryl Streep's generation was not talking about it. This is what I'm saying, right? So it's the generation of women now, when they are hitting perimenopause, menopause, they are talking about it more vocally than it has been discussed in the last generations or last decades.
All right, so what are those hormonal changes that take place during perimenopause?
Yeah, so like I said, perimenopause, the first symptom is irregular periods for women. That is the first one. And that's happening because of the hormonal fluctuations. So 2 female sex hormones that are present in women's body, estrogen and progesterone, they start going up and down. That's what's happening. Initially, the progesterone goes down, the estrogen is still up. But as a woman inches towards the menopausal age, estrogen starts going down. It stays down for the rest of her life. So that's, and then due to these hormones, the cortisol, which we know stress hormone, also goes up. The fact that most of the women are working, right, that adds a lot of stress. And if you're in your 40s, you're working, you probably have young kids or teenage kids, family to take care of. So the cortisol goes up. So that's another hormone that women need to look out for, is the stress hormone, right? So this is what is happening in a woman's body, and she's stressed for time during this phase of her life, because of the family, because of the so much pressure from work and home and balancing work and life balance. I mean, it's a mess. So these hormones are now creating all these fluctuations and havoc in a woman's body, and due to that, she starts seeing what we call hot flashes, night sweats, mood swings, weight gain, anxiety. All this is happening because of all these hormonal fluctuations that I just talked about.
All right. I watched a couple of your previous podcasts and interviews just so I could prepare for today. And I heard you say something that I thought was really fascinating. You said that perimenopause and menopause can be different among the ethnic groups. So can you tell me about that?
Absolutely. First of all, I'm not a medical doctor or a medical expert, so all my information is by research that I've done over the last 3-4 years and interviews with 3,000 plus experts. So yes, absolutely. So it's fascinating how menopause, perimenopause different as per ethnic groups. And I will give you the example. And let's just talk about the age of menopause. Average age should be 51, 52, and that is amongst Caucasian women. But when it comes to Latino American women and African American women, it's 47, 48. And it comes to some of the Muslim women, not in US, but outside the country, it's 45, 46. So the Indian woman in India is 45, 46, 47. So it's like now you say, why the heck different women from different cultures are getting menopause at different ages? That's one. Then you look at their symptoms are also very different. For example, the hot flashes are more aggravated in Latino American and African American. Muscular pain is more fatigue, muscular pain, weight gain, Asian women. And Japanese women don't get as much hot flashes as the other women because of their diet. So all this is happening because of the ethnic, of course, background. Also the lifestyle and the dietary lifestyle that they have been carrying all these years in the last 40 plus years, right? So that now carries into the perimenopause, how they experience perimenopause, menopause, and after the post-menopause as well.
Oh, that's really interesting. So how can humor, vulnerability, and community redefine what it means to age with purpose and vitality?
You know, we have to embrace it, right? we just have to embrace it in the right humor. It's a life stage. It's another life stage of our, that's happening to all of us. We are not going crazy, like a lot of, the clips that you see, especially, in Sex and the City, they show, they're going to Abu Dhabi and she's got all those hormonal pills coming out and she's not allowed to take it, and she's, oh my God, I'm going to go crazy without my hormones, right? So it was an exaggeration. And the other day, I think Jimmy Fallon show, he was trying to understand what menopause is. He said, oh, are you kidding me? Oh my God, So I think it has to be taken in a humor way, that it is another life stage in a woman's life. And even men go through their midlife crisis. I'm sure they do go through midlife crisis or midlife testosterone that's going down as well, right? So what can we do? This is a stage of life. How can we embrace it, and how can we prepare ourselves in a good way so that we navigate this journey the way we are navigating earlier?
Okay, and you just touched on the men. How does perimenopause in a woman affect the husband or partner?
Oh my God, you will be surprised to know that it can impact libido, right? I talked a little bit about that. Now, as a part of the libido for women going down, it can also impact their relationships if they are not openly communicating with their partners or their husbands or whatever. Now, due to that, it can lead to possibly divorce, which is actually a fact. 60% of women who are going through divorce in US and UK are menopausal, perimenopausal age group. We know that gray divorce is on the rise. So I'm not saying menopause is the culprit for all the divorces, but I am sure, nobody has done this research, but I'm sure if you go back and put some things, it's a lack of communication is what I'm talking about. And that's what happens between two people. If they're not communicating, whether it is, because of the libido or finances or whatever, the communication doesn't come through. So absolutely, the men are equally impacted by their wives or partners going through perimenopause, menopause. So many men have interviewed me and they've told me, oh my God, it's like I am going through menopause. Tell me what to do.
Yes, I happen to be at that stage of my life too.
Okay, so I'm not making it up, right?
No, my wife is going through perimenopause. She's 10 years younger than I am, and she started that process, and so she had several questions. Some of these questions are from her, and the rest of them are for her from me. So this is definitely a relevant topic in our household. So
Well,
you mentioned
you should have invited her. You should have invited her today.
I planned to, but she had something else that she had to do. We had talked about that. That would have been very interesting. So you mentioned perimenopause lasting up to 10 years. Now, how long does menopause last?
Menopause is permanent, right? Think about it. What menopause means is, let's say, 51-year-old woman, her menstrual health, her periods stop. That's the definition of menopause. Menopause definition is if a woman hasn't had her menstrual cycle consecutively for 12 months, she's technically in menopause. And then for the rest of the life until she dies, she is postmenopausal. She is menopause. She's going to live her life, more than half of her life in menopause, right? If you think about it. 40 years, and if she lives till 85, so 45 years of her life are in perimenopause, menopause, and she doesn't hit puberty like 13. So the reproductive you're looking at now, the years of menstrual health, and then it stops. It's menopause all the way.
Wow. So what are the symptoms of perimenopause?
So perimenopause, the first symptom, as I said, irregular periods. That's just a woman who's starting a perimenopause. That's the first thing she needs to pay attention to, her menstrual cycle, right? The menstrual cycle is not going to be regular like 28 days. It could be 21 days initially, 15, I don't know, or the flow could be strange. All these things happen, right? Now, as a result of that, she's probably going to have hot flushes or night sweats and can't sleep at night. Now, if she can't sleep at night, and that's what happened to me, in the morning you're going to be completely grumpy, right? Your mental health is going God knows where, and you are having mood swings like you're crazy, like a crazy hat over there. The whole household, God forbid, if you have teenage kids, everybody is going
you're
into
checking all the boxes in my house.
Okay. All the tantrums are going on in the morning breakfast. I say, what the heck happened here? And you're hoping everybody goes to the work or goes to school. You can have a moment of peace. I mean, because, and the woman cannot probably focus at her work because of if sleep has a direct correlation. We know about the cognitive part of our, health. Memory, so you can't remember some of the things, I forgot. The mood swings, I told you, suddenly things are coming out. They can be emotional at one time, or they can be anger at another time, or it could be something else. And so you have to ignore all that, is what I'm saying as a guy. But you have to understand is how to help this whole thing, the craziness of hormone fluctuation that's happening, that's causing all this.
Okay. Again, that's all good to know. I'll make it a checklist for myself to remind myself. All right. So if a woman has always had irregular menstrual cycles, how does she know when perimenopause has started for her?
So menstrual cycle, like I said, 28 days, right? The regular menstrual cycle for a woman, if she's not having PCOS or some other things, some other issues, vaginal issues, a normal, healthy woman should have 28 days cycle. Now, if the 28-day cycle starts 21 days or 15 days, then there is something, and if she's at the age of 40 plus or whatever, it could happen to younger women as well, then there are chances that perimenopause could be starting. These are typically the first symptoms. And at night, if she starts having all the things that I described, these are all perimenopause symptoms. Or suddenly if she starts putting on weight on her belly, right? Most of women, they're skinny earlier, and suddenly the belly comes out of nowhere. and because of it's because of the hormonal imbalance. So these are the signs. You can see it's not that difficult. You see any woman midlife, and suddenly they were so beautiful, like perfect body, and suddenly the belly comes out of nowhere. Right? It happened to me all the time. It happens to a lot of women. So it's because of, like I said, the hormone imbalance. So these are some of the signs that women should look for. And mood fluctuation, I told you, the mood swings can just go erratic. I mean, suddenly you're like spitting out words that you didn't even think you could.
All right. So what about estrogen replacement? Does that help with perimenopause as opposed to menopause?
So that's a big topic, right? It's basically your estrogen is going down. Now, a lot of women, estrogen is huge. It plays a huge part, right? Of all the things that in a woman's body. Now, it has to be consulted with a medical practitioner. You can't just start taking estrogen pills without proper testing and proper consultation, because it can also access estrogen can also possibly cause cancer. Okay, there are studies on that, on estrogen dominance. If you look it up, it will talk about how a lot of women get estrogen dominance because, as I said earlier, the progesterone hormone goes down, the estrogen is still up, and if it's not balanced, it can cause all kind of strange things. So hormone replacement therapy is an option, absolutely yes, but you need to go to someone who's qualified, who has to do proper testing before you decide to do hormone replacement therapy. And between hormone replacement therapy, there's so many different variations. This is HRT, bioidentical hormone therapy, and then there are, we are talking about naturopathic doctors. They mainly talk about BHRT or certain supplements that are phytoestrogens that mimic, they have natural estrogen to start giving to the body so that the body still have some estrogen to prevent from osteoporosis, diabetes, the heart issues and memory loss, and you name it, right? So it's a very complicated, very complicated topic, to be honest with you, and it's under-researched, underfunded all over the world. But still, now it's getting traction. So there are options. Like I said, HRT is a huge topic right now. That needs to be kind of handled with a lot of care.
All right. So what does perimenopause anxiety feel like?
Anxiety, you just you feel like you're losing your mind. So anxiety is happening because of all the reasons, all the symptoms that I explained, right? Talked to you earlier, and it's very common amongst women. 50% of the women are going through anxiety. Now, the other thing that also happens is the gut health. You need to pay a lot of attention to your gut health. Women need to pay a lot of attention to gut health. That if they're having regular bowel movements, most of the women get constipated during this time as well, and that's not good, because now if you're constipated, your toxins are not flushing out, which they need to flush out, right? So due to that, also you can get anxiety, because we know gut health and mental health, vagus nerve is connecting the two, and that is also could be a cause of anxiety. Now, just the fact that the lifestyle during the 40s is so crazy, if you're working, that is, anxiety. I mean, it's not just the perimenopause is the only reason for anxiety, is what I'm trying to say. Your work can cause anxiety. Your relationships, the way I was talking about earlier, can cause anxiety. If you have kids at home, can cause anxiety just because you're just not in balance. I mean, look at the lifestyle that all of us lead. How can you have any time to take care of yourself? You don't have any time as a woman, right? I'm talking about an average 40-plus-year-old woman anywhere in the world. If she might be working, she has a couple of kids or one kid, and she has to balance all of that. And where is the time for relaxation? There's no time, right? That's the problem. So how do you take out time for yourself as a woman? How do you make sure that you are controlling your stress and anxiety and making sure that you are changing your lifestyle, which you should have done earlier, but now it's too bad you haven't done it, but you need to fundamentally change your lifestyle to bring in more plant-based food in your diet, to let go of red meat. All those things are going to cause anxiety.
Wow, that's interesting. All right, so that's part among the lifestyle changes. Can you give us an extended list of changes that a woman might consider making in order to alleviate some of these symptoms?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, on the list is red meat. She needs to literally get rid of red meat. I know that is a fact. Processed foods, absolutely no. Sugar, alcohol, caffeine, right? All these things have to be literally thrown out of your diet. It's all going to cause anxiety. It's not going to give you nourish your body, and it's going to counteract the whole thing. So you need to bring in if you can cook every single day, I think that's the biggest gift that you're doing to yourself and to your family, with the fresh ingredients and bringing in the more vegetables, lentils, whole grains, this kind of thing. You need to have, maybe you could have one cheat day, but the kind of meat, if you want to have, go for chicken or fish. No red meat for women specifically. If they're having issues, they should absolutely go completely off, or maybe slowly they can introduce. So things like that.
Okay, this question is a little bit out of left field, but connected. You were an architect, as we talked about. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering, is there any way to set up a room, like a color palette or design or something that might relieve some anxiety for a woman, that she can just sort of have a little spa retreat within your home?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So we know that blues and greens, right, are soothing colors, the softer colors, I should say. And so maybe if that's what a woman wants to do, maybe she can build a small sanctuary at her home, like one room that could be, with the right colors, the greens and the blues. We know that nature has that color, right? The nature has greens and blues. So maybe you put a lot of plants in that room, or painted like light blue, and then maybe put some stones and have some sound therapy at home, right? Sound therapy is amazing. Meditation, simple meditation, even if you do it for 10 minutes in a day or 5 minutes, I can't even sit for more than 2-3 minutes. That can start helping. At the end of the day, just go sit in that room and just relax yourself and listen to music. If you cannot do the meditation, it can be simple, soothing music, right? Things like that, I think that can help a lot as a family, as a couple, as a woman. So these kind of practicing, these kind of gratitude, faith, religion, all these things help.
So what can a man do to support his wife as she's currently going through perimenopause? Is duck and cover a reasonable technique?
I think you're already doing amazing. You're understanding what perimenopause is, right? So I think as men, it's important for men to understand, this is a biological stage. There's nothing, it's not like a woman is inventing this stage that she's going crazy. It's just, as a guy, I think if they understand what's happening to their partner biologically and help her balance her hormones, I think that's really that's what I really want to leave this end. The hormones are going to go down. We know that, but they need to be in balance. So what can you do? So as a guy, I think you need to understand and at least have a basic knowledge of what perimenopause is, for other guys also, to support their spouses or partners, and at least have some kind of a checklist, that, okay, we are now going to make some changes to our lifestyle. If all of us have been on fast foods and processed foods, all over the world for that matter, not only in this country, that's just so convenient. But how do we now start bringing some healthy lifestyle, or holistic lifestyle, I should say that. When I use the word holistic lifestyle, you're talking about changing your nutrition, changing the movement, bringing like the time, the work you were doing, what the room, creating a space inside your home, which is kind of calming. All those things will help.
Okay, so as a final question today, can you tell the audience what you do and how they can connect with your work, and how, if they want to, they can connect, have a consultation with you?
Absolutely. So my goal was to really create a platform that's super affordable for every woman, that she can start her journey, self-care journey first. So that's what we are building. We are launching in 1 month, and that's called NourishDoc, www.NourishDoc.com. It is a holistic wellness platform for women when they're starting their menopause journey. They can go onto the website, download an app for $10 a month. They can go through all the things that I talk about. We have over 20 plus programs, all the symptom-based programs that women can go through to start the self-care journey first, and then go on to the guided care with the experts. We have a lot of holistic experts. And then after that, if they want one-on-one personalized consultation or the HRT or whatever the need could be, they can go into that. So we are building a very comprehensive, holistic wellness platform specifically focused on mid-age women to help themselves through the self-care and the guided care and the concierge care.
Okay, that's all great information. And that's NourishDoc.com. And I'll post a link in the show notes so that anyone who wants to connect with Ms. Sharma can do so and sort of get control of their health and alleviate some of the pressure on the men in their house. We'll just leave that as that. So our guest today has been the women's personalized holistic care advocate, Amita Sharma. Amita, thank you so much for joining me today. I've enjoyed this enlightening conversation.
Thank you.
So if you don't already follow me on Spotify or some other podcast platform, I would appreciate it if you would do that and share this episode with a friend. I'd greatly appreciate that. That's it for today's episode of Stories from Real Life. Join us again next time for another chance to learn from each other's stories and journeys. Until then, don't forget to shine your light wherever you go.
That was Stories from Real Life. Join us again next week for another great storytelling journey. See you next time.